Welcome everybody to the World of Dragons podcast, the podcast where 2.5 dragons, never mind, not anymore, where a dragon and his rider get together to discover, review, and discuss dragon-related content, including but not limited to books, movies, TV shows, video games, to help you dragon fans discover the next piece of media or literature that you want to just dive into. I wanted to say live in, but some of it's too short to actually live in it.
Yeah.
Like, you can live in a 9-book series, but you can't really live in a relatively short ebook. Anyway, I am Ray, and with me always is Bantam.
Who never gets to introduce himself.
Member. Sorry, it just the podcast that I'm used to listening to, the main host does all the introductions. They usually just go like, "Hey," as he goes through the list of names. I guess just for ease of not stumbling over each other.
No, see, I'm used to F Plus where he introduces them and then they tell a joke or they say something.
Okay, the thing is, I know you love F Plus, but F Plus is a fucking catastrophe as far as organizational skills go.
Yeah, and they're releasing one episode every 2 months now.
Yeah, you think I'm bad? I had a 2.5 month hiatus, but now I've edited 3 things really fast. It's all right, we're getting back on the ball.
All right, Ray, what are we reviewing today?
You were super quiet for 5 whole seconds. Did your mic cut out?
No.
Okay. It sounded like I cut you off and then you were just quiet for 5 seconds, so I thought you were talking but nothing was getting picked up.
No, I mean, I'm okay. Looking at the, it does seem like it's trying to get quieter. I don't know, but...
Yeah, just also remember, don't trail off and start mumbling. I mentioned that to you before.
Yeah.
Editing woes with Ray.
Yeah, well, Ray and I talked about it, and we're wondering if maybe I just get self-conscious about my volume, and so I instinctively trail off, I hope I'm not being too loud. Yeah,
stuff like that. And it's just, it makes doing your audio balance really wonky, and I'm just worried that people are what? I can't hear him, huh? Yeah. But if I turn it too loud, then when you suddenly go ha ha, or whatever, it'll just blow people's ears out.
Let me shut my door.
Alright. Anyway, so yes, welcome back everybody. You should hopefully be catching up to us as far as backlog goes. 2 episodes ago, which was uploaded at start of February or end of January, it's it's October, whoa! It's no, okay, we're actually catching up now. Time dilation is thinning. We're back to normal. I'm almost through the backlog, so this might still be a month late, but we're getting closer. Anyway, so this episode, we are doing the book Axtara Banking and Finance. Right, that's the subtitle, Banking and Finance.
Banking and Finance.
It sounds like a textbook. But it's by Max Florschutz?
Florschutz. Yeah.
Florschutz.
That's
what I'm very sorry about your last name. I hope I said it right. Bantam hated it. Spoiler.
I did not like it. And you know what? Getting it out of the way, I didn't like it because it is just not a subject matter or a writing style that I like. It was very much a slice of life. I don't give a shit about slice of life stuff. I don't care about banking or finance. I don't care about politics. And
Bantam's on the other end of the spectrum from me, where I love slice of life stuff. I like this political nonsense. This is the stuff that I live for. So I greatly enjoyed it. I wouldn't quite say loved, just a writing style quirk. But everyone's got their preferred writing styles that they like reading, right? But I greatly enjoyed it. Bantam didn't. But you know what? That's what makes us so great as a team. We're opposite ends of the spectrum here. Bantam enjoys the super comic relief, fourth wall breaking, satirical stuff.
Yeah, I was telling them that at this point, nothing can compare to the last book we read.
The Conjuring of Zach Soroth.
Yeah, nothing can compare to it. It is now sitting on a platform
over the golden pedestal high, that nothing will ever reach.
So high in the air that it's probably having trouble breathing with the low atmosphere up there.
Okay, that's one way to put it.
Can't even see all these other books down here.
Those of you, so starting with the spoiler-free review, to let you guys know if you want to read this for yourself before getting into the spoiler-filled discussion about the story and whatnot and what we liked and didn't like. The book is very slice of lifey. It is very. There's like no action, there's no combat, and that's worth pointing out because a lot of books with dragons tend to have combat in some way, usually because they tend to be high fantasy.
Yeah.
It is very mild and can move kind of slow. I will admit that the first, 15% of the book I struggled with because it took a while to get going. But once we got to the actual meat of it, I started to really enjoy it.
The way I described this book to a friend was that imagine your standard fantasy novel. Now imagine the downtime between chapters, where it cuts to months later. This whole book takes place in that boring cut where you cut all that out because it's not interesting to me.
To you.
This whole book.
It helps that the king was a retired adventurer, so this is after the adventure.
This whole book was filler.
But I love filler. Those of you who have read Wings of Fire, which is fairly popular, so it should be most of you, a lot of people complained about Book 14. They didn't like Book 14 because it felt like it was a lot of filler. Nothing happened. Nobody really cared about what Queen Snowfall, I think that's her name, was going through. It didn't actually advance the main story. Meanwhile, I loved Book 14. Even though it was filler, I enjoyed seeing a lot of the other characters. We got to see Winter again, and we got to see, we brought Sky in and whatnot. It's I actually, enjoyed it. I really liked the book, but a lot of people didn't. So it's kind of like that. As far as, vibes go. I will also admit, though, that on the dragonosity scale, it's not that high. I'd give it, a 6 out of 10 on how dragon was the dragon.
Yeah, I will say that, maybe this is... spoil... Oh my god, cut all of that. Anyway.
If I remember to, I tend to just remove the white noise
fine.
now.
That's fine. Full disclosure, coming from someone who did not like this book, maybe I'm being overly critical. Maybe I'm being nitpicky. But it definitely felt like every other sentence the author had to make sure to include something about, tail twitching or wings stretching or claws digging in or whatever, just to remind you this is a dragon. This whole book could have been written with any creature replacing the dragon, even another human, and it wouldn't have changed the plot at all.
Well, a big plot point of the book was bigotry, the racism. So replacing it with a human would have been a little bit harder, but it didn't.
She's just from another kingdom, and we don't like those people.
Right, but I don't know. Maybe I underestimate human bigotry, but
yeah, you do.
A lot of the literal spawn of the devil gonna come steal our children, all that kind of stuff. Maybe I give people too much credit. Maybe some of them are that bad. I don't know. But yeah, I actually felt like there weren't enough mentions of claws and wings and tail. There could have been more. There were certainly some times when they were describing what Axtara was doing that I was confused for a second. Wait, does she walk on 4 legs or 2? This sounds like she walked on 2. When she's carrying the teacups to help her friend wash up or whatever. I'm like, is this a strain for her? Does she normally walk on 2 legs or 4 legs?
So a lot of times people say, oh, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't even look at the cover, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the cover for this, she's slightly bigger than a human.
Yeah, but I mean, 4-legged or 2-legged.
It looks like she's basically just...
It's a very cartoonish drawing, so it's kind of hard to take as gospel.
It kind of is. But it does feel... I do believe that she can walk on her hind legs whenever she... when she's moving from point A to point B, she's on all 4s, but when she's in her house, she's probably on 2 legs.
I imagine she walks on 4 legs naturally, but she can waddle on 2 for short periods of time she needs to. Because there were a couple times during a storm where they mentioned that her claws were getting muddy and she had to flick them clean or whatever, or wipe them off with a cloth before having some bread and jam or whatever. So I think it's mostly 4-legged. But the point is, it had, like Bantam says, it had to go out of its way to remind you she's got wings, so she's got a tail, or she's got teeth or whatever. And somebody in our Discord in one of the chat rooms, I don't remember which one, said that it felt very human and dragon suit, and I will agree.
Yeah, I will agree.
A little bit. Not as bad as some other stuff, but that's why I gave it a 6 out of 10 on the dragonosity scale. It was better than most, but it could have been still better.
I will say as far as writing style, I did not like how much the dragon talked to herself in her head. Like it
was useful, but it went on for too long sometimes.
Yeah, it went on way too long. Like there was like an entire small book hidden in her talking to herself in her head.
I have quit books in the past because the character does nothing but talk to themselves in their head. Usually the character is very alone. They have no friends. There was a book, I think it's called A New Kind of Freak. I don't remember. And there was another one whose name I can't even remember because I quit that one so early on. But where the character is alone, living in like a cave for like half of the book at least, and those get old really fast.
Yeah.
She was on the edge of civilization, very literally on the edge of my acceptance of talking to yourself because you're alone. She did get to interact a lot with people, and those were my favorite parts, was when she was with Mia or with one of her clients, but the few alone parts she had did go on a bit too long at some points. Yeah. Introspection is good, but if you do it for too long of a period, it feels boring.
She's doing it mid-conversation, too, which is, I think, what bothered me. Like, she was, like, analyzing people's thoughts in her own head while she was in the middle of a conversation. And it was like, that's excessive. Maybe just enjoy this conversation, and then you can have your little bits of introspection later when you're home.
I'm okay with introspection during a dialogue. However, that tends to fit much better in first-person narrative. So it was a weird choice to do in a third-person narrative book. We were in her head and, like, experiencing her thoughts directly so much that it felt like it should have been a first-person narrative. To the point where a couple of times when it would be like, dialogue, she said, I was like, wait, is she Axtara or is she the person she's talking to? Because, like, I was expecting first-person.
Yeah.
Another thing, this is a really weird formatting quirk that I am only 95% sure on, so grain of salt. But another thing about the way the book was formatted is when someone was talking for multiple paragraphs in a row, like, so they're just going on and on and on, usually when you have the same character talking for multiple paragraphs, you do not put the closing quotation marks at the end of, like, paragraph 1 or 2 if it continues on to 3.
Yeah.
Because that's supposed to denote this is the same person talking. But in this book, a lot of times the closing quotation marks were there, so when the next paragraph started with an opening quotation mark, it made me think it was the other person retorting, and I had to do a double take every now and then. That's just a really minor formatting quirk. I don't know how big of a deal it is. It just, like I said, made me do a couple of double takes. So I guess, small warning, if you're writing a book, keep in mind that little quirk, and if you're reading this, understand that it might get a little confusing. I don't know. It's probably not a big deal. I hyperfixate on it.
I mean, it's valid because I've been trained to... All right, so I have a speed reading technique, and the speed reading technique is that I skip over I skip over writing that is in between dialogue, especially if I get to a page where there's a lot of dialogue. I only read the dialogue. So my brain turns on as soon as I see the quotation marks, reads all that, and then turns off when the end quotation marks happen and I skip over. So yeah, even with me speed reading, that was kind of tripping me up every once in a while. Like, the quotation marks exist for a reason, to begin and end a conversation. But if the conversation's continuing, you don't need to begin it and end it again. I also had some issues in this book with the technology level, but we'll get into that. You know, that there were a lot of...
I mean, that's setting, so we can talk about it right now if you want to get into it.
Yeah.
Don't mention specific scenes, but just talk about the tech level.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to... a major character shows up, a major character, using a crossbow. And then later on, I think, like, literally the next chapter, it's described...
There's some guards with guns.
There's some guards with guns. And it's like, why are you using a crossbow when guns exist? Like... It just seemed really stupid to me, and it wasn't the fact that, like, oh, the guards are rich and the person was poor. It's just there's literally no reason why the character needed to be using a crossbow, except that they really wanted to have the crossbow stick in a door.
Yeah, but that's, like, your opinion, man.
It is, and I don't like it.
Both me and Tanith were against you on that. You're like, no, they can have both, and it would make sense. This was just your personal opinion.
Yeah, it is. It is my personal opinion. I will admit. I just think it's stupid that in a society, in a kingdom where the royalty have guns, where guns exist, no one would be using a crossbow.
We'll put a pin in this and debate it more hotly in the second half.
Okay.
But yeah, The setting was definitely very, I think the term is turn of the century. No, it's not. Pre-industrial revolution. Machines are just starting to become a thing. The trains that they were traveling on were new. So it's a lot of old medieval tech. We're just barely starting to get into some of the more modern stuff.
Yeah, I believe the guns were flintlocks. They did mention trains and steam engines and machines.
Indoor plumbing is just barely becoming a thing. It's not very common yet.
And indoor lighting was a novelty. Like, I know that
electricity, I think, does not exist. But
does not exist.
Mentioned once. I think once to it, and it looked like I think somebody was on the verge of it.
Yeah, because Axtara's bank was powered with magic candlelights that did not emit heat, but or burn anything. Whereas everyone else is using candles and lanterns.
Yeah. As far as the world building goes, I actually enjoyed the world. Like, it was just your typical fantasy, whatever, but there were enough nuances that made it, like, interesting. And, I don't know, it vibed with me.
Yeah, I'll say that it was relatively, decent as far as world building goes. I
enjoyed all the little asides that Axtara would have, usually when trying to, like, explain some bit of dragon culture to Mia or whatever.
Yeah.
Those were fun.
I had sent Ray and I guess it's an isekai chart, but it can be applied to fantasy books in general. On the worst end, you have grimdark, and on the best end, you have fairy tale worlds. This was pretty much a fairy tale world, a near perfect utopia where everyone is kind and innocent. Sometimes there might be a looming evil, but nothing too difficult to defeat.
Yeah. The thing is, this book definitely takes place during, I'm going to call it the taming of the wilds, we'll call it. The kingdom where the book takes place it's there after the king has finished his adventuring days, which involved vanquishing the Fell, which I'm assuming the Fell would be like demons and stuff?
Yeah.
Like stuff from another plane of existence or something? I don't know.
She mentioned that demons exist. At first she spoke in a metaphorical sense that demons exist in everyone's heart or whatever, but it's established that there are wizards that can summon monsters and to protect them, like, wizards have pet monsters or whatever. So I assume that it is basically Fell is describing any creature that is, savage, bloodthirsty, and murderous.
Right, but I mean, like, so the Fell have been vanquished in this area. The dragons are civilized, and the Dark Days, as they call it, are only like 1 or 2 generations in the past, like less than 100 years ago, I think. Because her parents got to see the end of the Dark Days, if I remember correctly from the beginning.
Yeah.
So the greatest monsters of all dragons are now friends, and we're dealing with a lot of culture clashing of humans and dragons getting along with each other, and that's the foundation of a lot of the bigotry that Axtara faces in this remote kingdom. But the point is that a lot of the, I'm going to call them the old monsters, like the Fell, the dragons, and the whatever, are done and dealt with. The frontiers are shrinking, and the world is kind of settling down, which is why this feels very fairy tale-ish, because there's no big looming supernatural threat, and that's why the book becomes very political. It's a political intrigue kind of book.
Yeah.
It's why the plot revolves around a bank and ledgers and numbers and finance.
Yeah, essentially, without spoiling the plot, the whole concept of the book hinges on there is this kingdom in the far outstretches of the world, away from where Axtara was born, that should, by all intents and purposes, be a rich, prospering kingdom, because they have a lot of natural resources and a lot of exports that they could be taking advantage of, but they're not. And so she believes that if she opens a bank there, she can make that kingdom prosperous while also making money herself. She says
the most harrowing part of the book is, wait, these numbers aren't adding up.
It really is. The closest you're going to get to the sting of like dramatic music is when she's playing with an abacus and realizes, oh my god, something's wrong.
Which, no lie, I was like, ooh, this is good. Like, I liked it, okay?
Like, so. even in the beginning of the book, when people are, like, throwing rocks at her house, it's played off, like, kind of sad, but kind of comedic. Like, it's not even really, like, a threat, so it really is. Like, that is the turning point of the book where, like, oh my god, there's a plot here. To me.
I enjoyed the plot. It was good. You can see it coming a mile away, though. But it's fine. That's fine. All good books you can see coming because the foreshadowing is done properly.
Yeah. Ray picked up on the foreshadowing pretty quick. I only picked up on it as quick because he said it. So that's fine.
So the actual, did we talk about the actual writing style, like the author's own personal style, his prose, his whatever?
Kind of lightly.
I don't think so. I just want to mention that the book was easy to get through. There were, I think, I can only count like 4 typos, so he did decent on his editing pass. There have been a few that we've read that's like, oh, they just need another editing pass. This is a little weird. So this was pretty good as far as that goes. I will admit that the writing style itself felt a little
childish.
Not childish. I would say simple.
Very simple.
Very simple. Very direct. Very blunt. Like I'm saying what I want to say, and I'm not trying to like flower it up at all.
That is
kind of
that
style.
is good though for me.
It is good for a lot of people, but the thing is, when you're writing a book with not a very heavy plot, sometimes you got to get a bit more colorful with how you write to kind of draw people in.
No.
Part of the reason why I loved Tooth and Claw more than this, even though it was generally the same genre, Tooth and Claw had a lot more, I'm going to call flavor in how it was written, which is why I could like that better.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
no from you, dog.
That's gonna be a personal preference.
It's
issue
a personal preference
because
this is the review section, and that's why it's worth putting out there.
I don't like flowery language. I don't like words that are not commonly used. So you're like, what is that? I also appreciated the fact that every character in this book had a very easy to remember and distinct name. You go back to older books that we've read, and I can't remember any of their fucking names, but I'll always remember that the princess's name is Mia, and that the guy who runs the courier shop is Vern, and that the people who run the mill are,
Water Lily and Crag Lily.
Crag Lily and Water Lily. It's like they're very simple names. And I appreciate that because, I always bring it up, but there's always this joke with elven names where it's like, oh, he's so powerful, he has 6 apostrophes in his name. And it's like, don't do that.
Yeah, like Bantam will never forgive Tooth and Claw for using the word couchant and sedgent. He'll never forgive Age of Fire for stuff like see and saw.
Ever. And I will take that to my grave as the worst thing ever.
He'll never forgive Mating Fight for stuff like the Hakucho or the Wefo.
Here's the thing. Picture a cat sitting down and tucking in all of its paws. Okay? If you point to that and ask 1,000 people, and you go, "What is that sitting position?" They'll be like, "Tucked," or a cat sitting. It's
they
cat
would call it
down.
a loaf.
A loaf. But they would
a
not
loaf is
say
very modern day.
But they would not say couchant unless they were already like a 50-year-old or more fucking author. And that bothered me because I had to look up what couchant is.
It fit with the time period and theming of what the book was trying to be with the whole Victorian, that's the word, Victorian.
Gross.
But yeah. But no, I liked couchant and sedgent. But whatever. We're not gonna have this fight again.
We're not going to have this fight again.
We have it like once a week at work when we talk about books. It's hilarious.
It's any time a word is uttered or written that I don't fully understand, and Ray will go, "Oh, couchant," and then I want to attack him.
Thing is, books have a budget of new or fancy words they're allowed to use. Using the word budget, I'll call it, helps readers expand their vocabulary. And if they have to make up a word for something, like with Age of Fire's see and saw, basically, meaning the front limbs and the back limbs, it adds depth to the world. It makes it a bit more immersive, in my opinion. But if you go over budget, you start turning people off like Bantam. Because it's like too many words, they don't want to learn it, or it's not making any sense, they can't remember them all, or whatever.
I'm a firm believer in that you can tell a really great story without using any fancy words.
So Bantam would just have a simple writing style.
Yeah. I'm catering to the common man type of writing style.
But alas. Anything else to talk about the book, spoiler-free wise?
Despite the fact that I did not like the book, it was not a bad book. It was very much a good book for people like Ray who like slice of life. It was very slice of lifey, but for me, that was incredibly boring. I'm going to remain fair with my words that it is a good book, and that if you like dragon books, this was a good dragon book.
It just did not appeal to him.
It just did not appeal to me, and I suffered.
I kind of touched on it already with my dragonosity scale, which I'm going to try and coin that term, put on a t-shirt or something. But Bantam, how, acknowledging you didn't like the book, so just the story, the world, whatever, the characters in itself, how well would you say it fulfilled your, quote, dragon fantasy? Like, if you're looking for a book specifically because you like dragons and you picked this up, do you think you'd be disappointed or pleased with the way dragons were portrayed, or how, for lack of better terms, how dragony it made you feel, since you were mostly watching from the point of view of a dragon character?
Yeah, 7.5 out of 10. I mean, the dragon was the main character. She did mention her customs and the way her people are back home, and she, like I said, the author seemed terrified to ever let you forget she was a dragon, with some of his word choices. So, or descriptions of her tail flicking or her wings stretching, or...
Yeah, to me, that's preferable. There have been a couple books that I've read where the main character is a fox, like a kitsune, so a bipedal fox with tails, and went through half the book, and you could just forget that's what he was. They never mentioned snout, they never mentioned fur, they barely mentioned the tail. It's like, you might as well just have him be a fucking human at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. You do see her parents for a little bit, but she is more or less the only dragon for 95% of the book. But I'm okay with that, because personally, I like culture clashes, or species classes, or whatever you want to call it. I like, as much as we would all love a book where every single character in it was a dragon, that's great, that's wonderful, I love those. But I also enjoy the books where there are very few dragons, because I like seeing how they interact with other people. A lot of the reactions that the townspeople had to Axtara really kind of vibed with me, because I enjoy seeing those kind of interactions, even if they were kind of bigoted at the beginning. But still, every time someone was just like a little nervous and timid and like would cringe when she smiled a bit too toothily, I was like, hey, that's good. That gives me some good dragon feels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there was a point in the book where she's walking through town and she was mentally telling herself how to hold herself so as not to freak people out. She said, keep the wings tucked, keep the head, looking down, and do not show your teeth, but smile with your lips.
Yep. There's something I wanted to say on the topic of culture clashing, but I forgot. That's fine. It's in my notes. It'll come up when we're going through the book second half. All right, so Bantam.
Yes.
I kind of already know the answer, but for the listeners, X out of 5 stars, and would you live here?
3 out of 5 stars, and no.
3 out of 5 stars. I thought you hated the book. 1 out of 5.
I hated the book. Well, are you like I said, I hated the book. It was not a bad book. I just hated it. I'm trying to be objective here. That it was
we need a better metric for our X out of 5 stars. It keeps like changing. It's extremely subjective every single episode.
Yeah, for me, it was not my type of book. I will say that it was mercifully short, but it was not my genre. But it was well written, and it was not. The plot was decent for what it was. The pacing was okay. I believe, if you consider gaining accounts for a bank to be character growth.
Yeah, why not?
The pacing was good, but aside, like I said, it's not my thing.
Yeah. And the thing is, so, really weird aside, this being episode 52, I think, the 52nd numbered episode, which usually means it's a unique piece of media we're covering, because I don't number part 2s, and I don't number the interviews and the fillers and all that. We could almost say we're in season 2 of the show, just because with the start of episode 50, I changed the intro music. It's much more adventurous. I just took one of the songs from Dragon Commander. But being in season 2, we could just sit down and like revamp the whole thing, like get a better metric for X out of 5 stars. Maybe we'll do X out of 5 stars for the book itself, and then X out of 5 stars for the world. Would you live here? I don't know. We'll talk about it after the show. But yeah, I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So it's pretty damn good, almost perfect. I just felt it was a little too simple for my taste. Makes me sound so fucking conceited, but it was good. It took a while to get going, but once it got going, I started to really enjoy it. So 4.5 out of 5, and living there, not personally. As much as I loved all of it, the concept, and as much as I would like to be a dragon banker, I think that vibed with me really hard. I wouldn't want to live here just because the dragons are pretty squishy.
Yeah, the dragons are pretty squishy, and also it feels like a kingdom in like stagnation, or like a world in stagnation, right before the Industrial Revolution, which some may argue is where shit just goes downhill.
Then if you lived here, you could stop the Industrial Revolution.
Because you have pollution and modernization, whatever. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like a particularly exciting place to live. Like, I don't believe they ever mention dwarves or elves. They don't.
I feel like it's implied that there are other sapient species. I don't remember what passage it was, but there's something that implied it. Like, humans and dragons are not the only sapient species, but I can't remember the passage. But it's pretty heavily implied that there's more.
Yeah. The point
Whether
is,
they're elves and dwarves, or if they're animal, like beastmen.
Yeah.
I would live here, 100%, if the dragons were a bit more durable. Again, my personal fantasy is a dragon that's like bulletproof and missile-proof and nuclear warhead-proof. The entire time I was reading it, I was imagining, first off, that this book should be like a game. I don't know what the gameplay would be, but I want to play a game that's based around this. Just me going over... It'd be like Papers, Please. It's just me going over a ledger, adding numbers up and deciding, which loan should I give out? Like, that seemed like a good game to me.
It would.
While I was reading this.
It would. It would be a fun game. Not so much a fun book. Again, but subjective. For me, not fun.
Yeah, but also the entire time I was reading it, I was thinking also like, if I was the dragon in this situation, I would be a bit more arrogant, a bit more willing to show my teeth while smiling, because I want people to be intimidated by me, yada, yada, yada. Which is a good sign. If I'm self-interested in thinking how I would act differently, that's a good sign of a book. So, again, more points towards I enjoyed it. But the thing is, like, a lot of how I would do things differently kind of just turned it into I wouldn't go to this world if I had a magic portal gun, though.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway. We're going to go ahead and do our break right now and come back to some spoiler talk.
And welcome back. We are now getting into the spoiler side of the episode. So if you have not read the book and it sounds like your cup of tea, it is not a very long read. So definitely give it a shot. Or see how far you can get, like me.
The thing is, we both procrastinated this till holy hell, mostly because we were just busy with, like, video games and stuff.
Well, so between Pal World and Valentine's Day and the Super Bowl and Valentine's Day being so close together, we were really busy at work.
It affected our day jobs because we work in that industry.
Yeah, and then on top of that, once I actually started reading the book, I went, holy fuck, this is boring. And I immediately put it down, like, yeah, I'll just last minute it like I always do. And so I last minuted it. And I started reading it like somewhat normally. I do speed read, but I was giving it, my all, until I got to like the halfway point in the book, and I was like, nothing has happened. This sucks. It's so fucking boring. And so then I was like, fine, I'm gonna play Tomb Raider, and I'm going to put the book through a text-to-speech program and just have that, whatever. But the text-to-speech program doesn't have speed settings and also pronounced every, dash. So, like, the author, I noticed, used a lot of dashes to cut off dialogue. Like where a person is talking and then you put a dash to imply they get interrupted. And so the narrator would be like, yes, but that dash... And I'm like, what? Also, there was another point in the book where I started using it where a character says Axtara, and then nothing is said after that. And then it skips a line, and then Axtara, like it's a character like trying to get her attention. And so the narrator is like, Axtara, Axtara. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so I was actually listening to it, but when I looked at the time and I saw how slow the narrator was going, I went, all right, fuck this. I'm going to speed read. So I dropped the I dropped the text size down to the smallest it could get so I could fit more words on the screen, and I just fucking blew through the rest of the book.
He effectively only read the first 70% of it because then he started speed read mode.
I still got the basic plot points.
Yeah, but you
I skipped out on the flavor.
Yeah. The flavor's so good, like the orange tea.
No, I got all that in the hot chocolate. And no, like I said, my speed reading technique is that whenever a person is talking and you have like, blah, 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 blah dialogue, and then you have like a line or two of not dialogue, then is closed out with more dialogue, I just completely skip from dialogue to dialogue. I don't read the fluff in between. And in
Bantam's head, these people are just sitting in chairs talking to each other, not moving at all.
Not moving at all. That's literally what it is. And it's worked out really well for me. Boo. Well, I hated this book, and the alternative was I don't finish it and then admit I didn't finish it. Ray has
to have more DNFs on his belt.
Ray has told me multiple times, like, listen, as long as you give the book a fair chance, like, I'm not going to be upset if you don't finish. Then that'll be a metric of its own. People...
I mean, I've admitted to putting books down. They're not books that we've done on the show yet, but we probably should eventually cover them so we have an example of a bad book review.
If Dilatan were still in the show, I'd be more comfortable with DNFing a book, but because it's just the two of us, it just feels shitty to review a book and then not have finished it.
Yeah.
So
but as long as you're upfront about it, it's fine.
Yeah, I got to about 65% legitimately, and then I blew through the remainder on speed read.
Right when I was getting good too.
No, I got all the major plot points. I'm
just teasing you for speed reading.
Yeah, and then unfortunately,
he was at 70% when I was at like 86, and then by the time I got to 91, he's like, "I'm at 96." I'm like, "Jesus Christ, man!"
Yeah, and then I accidentally spoiled something for him. I'm sorry.
But I just can't believe you can go that fast. Is what it is. Whatever. We're not talking about your speed reading tactics here. We're talking.
So Axtara
dragons
ends up in this Eldarin.
Anasia,
in this kingdom, intent on opening a bank because it's always been her dream, and she sent out. It's described that she sent out surveyors and all these people to like check the surrounding area for natural resources and survey the town, and basically she was sure that unless something catastrophic happened, she could turn a profit and make this kingdom prosperous. Mm-hmm. And so she had a beautiful giant bank/house built on the outskirts of town. And she never once decided to mention to anyone, "Hey, I'm a dragon, by the way." They just thought it was a person named Axtara who was opening a bank in their town. And I guess she also unfortunately shared the name of a wizard that was like an enemy of the kingdom. And so everyone just here's Axtara, and they're like, "Oh my god, the evil wizard is moving in right outside of town and opening a bank." And then the dragon shows up, and everyone thinks the dragon is the wizard's pet. And so conjured beast. So they're constantly showing up at her door and whipping eggs at it, or rocks or whatever. One dude shows up with a sharpened frying pan and throws it at her.
Sharpened frying pan.
That's what she says. So like a frying pan.
I know. I read the book too. It's just like the concept of a sharpened frying pan. It's like, ugh.
Well, when you don't have the money to buy a sword, you take a hammer and a frying pan and some
It's
heat.
so funny. Like all these people that thought that she was a monster, basically, and they show up with completely ineffective weapons, and then they run the second they see her. It's like, what did they expect? They're like, if we throw an egg at her house, maybe she'll leave.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do you expect?
I don't. It's the same thing of like crows picking at cats' tails while they're, and then running away. It's like it just bother her enough, and maybe she'll leave.
Bother enough, maybe she'll burn your town down.
Yeah.
Again, these people thought she was an actual monster.
And
this wasn't like hey, this person who we understand is civilized is moving in, but we don't like him, so they just make life uncomfortable for him. They thought she was a monster in the sense that if you keep pulling at its tail, it's going to burn down the town. Like what were they hoping to accomplish?
I don't know. But then the first moment in the book that really truly pissed me off happened. It happened, but I wasn't pissed off yet. A person in armor shows up with a crossbow and fires a bolt at the door. And so this was the final straw. She runs outside and she grabs the bolt out of the door, snaps it in half,
And she cried at them.
And she cried at them, and she was like, "What did I ever fucking do to you? This is my goddamn house. Leave me the fuck alone." And then she goes inside and cries. And
It's just funny. You're like, this is the last straw, and I'm like, she cries at them. It's like,
yeah.
What a last straw.
It really, yeah. And so, that's, you know what? As lame as it might sound, to me, it was good character growth because she's trying to remain civilized.
Mm-hmm.
She easily could have just incinerated them and then gone and burned the town down and been like, well, this was a failure.
I'm not saying it's lame, like, oh, it totally should not have done that. No, I don't mean like that. I just, the phrasing of the last straw proceeds to cry, refuses to elaborate. It's just, the delivery was really weird. But no, in story, it made a lot of sense. And in fact, her breaking down showed how human she was. Like,
yeah.
I hate using that term when talking about dragons or
civilized
things. But yeah, it's just, in a world full of humans, the verb to be human.
Yeah. And up until this point, she's been going into town and getting shunned. She went to the courier office to see if she had any mail, but the courier's lazy as shit, and they basically just go collect and deliver the mail whenever the fuck they feel like it. And so she hasn't had an audience with the king. The king doesn't even know if she's, in town yet or whatever. And she's just very upset. It feels like the whole world is out to prevent her from, to the point where she's doing her finances and figuring out how long she can last if she gets no business.
Mm-hmm.
But so she's finally had enough. She has a breakdown at this night, and she closes the door, goes back inside, and the knight knocks on the door, and turns out it's the fucking princess. It's Princess Mia.
It ends up being a really rocky start, where they become fast friends, and it's the impetus that gets her the
audience with the king.
And then
clears up a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, and it starts to slowly make things better, because in an effort to show the town that she's not a monster, she is civilized, she's just like us, just happens to be a dragon. They basically go on a stroll through town to go buy pastries while talking about jewelry, and it's to show people how, again, I hate the term, but to show people how human she is, right? Which is it's fine. I get it. It's great for the book. Personally, it should not have been done any differently at all. But, and this is where the big but of if it was me, and the story completely falls apart, because I would be demanding respect, and if people are going to come and throw us over my door, then they get burned or eaten, but that just starts a whole cascade of see, he is a monster. But the thing is, again, because my personal fantasy involves dragons that are able to withstand pretty much everything, including bullets, and in a more modern day setting, missiles and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Just because I like power fantasies. I'm going to put a thumbtack in that for later. Because I like power fantasies, it would involve yes, even though you can all think I'm a monster, I can still go around and do whatever the fuck I want, including, giving out loans to people. It's a really weird mix, but whatever. That's why I didn't write this book.
And then... And then that was when the moment happened that really pissed me off for the first time in this book, is that after they clear up that miscommunication, and the princess is like, oh, we're going to go meet my father. And she has two guards attending her, and the guards have guns, flintlock rifles. And it's this technology level here, you have guns and you have guards. You're the princess. Why did the princess show up at this dragon's house by herself with a fucking crossbow? That is stupid. And I've had a couple people try to explain it to me or reason it. I don't accept it. There's no way in fucking hell that people are oh, the princess snuck away. First of all, the princess is very fucking well known in her own goddamn kingdom. She's not just sneaking away to go all the way outside of town to this house with a crossbow and full plate mail. So she shows up with a crossbow because it felt like the author is I really want to have her shoot a crossbow bolt into the door so that Axtara can pull the bolt out and snap it in half and cry. And it's okay, and now you have guns. Why did the princess not bring a gun, and why did she not have any guards?
Okay, so I'm going to steal the microphone from you because I'm going to devil's advocate the other side here.
Okay.
Debate style.
Yep.
So Bantam thinks that the second a thing is discovered, it now replaces everything that came before it.
Yep.
He's going civilization style, where you discover rifles and your pikemen all immediately upgrade to riflemen, right? It's not how it works, right?
It's exactly how it works historically.
We have already established that this kingdom is poor, therefore they probably don't have a lot of excess guns laying around to which you could just grab one. Again, she went fast, alright? She went before anybody knew that she was there. There's a reason she said, oh, my father's gonna kill me when he finds out what I did, right? So she went before telling anybody. She didn't sneak out, but she went fast enough that it might as well have been considered sneaking out. Nobody knew she was there. She probably didn't have time to go and grab a gun, just grabbed whatever was lying around or whatever she had access to. Also, being a medieval time book, women were not supposed to be around weapons. It's just, it wasn't very ladylike. So she probably, again, didn't have access to the gun. Also, with the kingdom being poor and guns being relatively new, there's a good chance the guns were not in an armory at all, and they're instead on the persons of the guards that own them. It's like, this is your assigned gun, take good care of it, you're not getting a new one. Therefore, don't leave it lying around. So there may not have been an extra one for her to grab in the first place. And then final point, regardless of there being guns or not, if she's not trained in it, it might be more effective for her to use a crossbow. Something that she might have been trained in.
Okay, yeah, but that point 3 is bullshit, because anybody, like, all right, historically, because I did, when I was back in high school, I did projects on Japan, we were able to, whatever. When people brought guns to Japan, they remarked at how amazingly easy it was to use a gun after having used bows or crossbows. That it is basically the exact same thing. Using a crossbow...
What level of gun was this?
Flintlocks, just like the guards were using. Muskets and long rifles. Exact same thing. People were like, oh, yeah, and apparently they also have revolvers, which are considerably more easy to use than crossbows. And so it's like I don't see it. If they have the tech level,
it's fine. It's whatever. We're allowed a couple of suspensions of disbelief with this book. It's very obvious that the author is very fluent in marketing and finance and not historical weaponry.
Okay, fair. You know what? That one I'll accept.
But whatever. Small potatoes.
Okay? It's like someone pulling out a typewriter and going, oh god, I can't wait to write a story about banking and finance. Let's put a dragon in it so it's not entirely boring.
Well, there's like a reason why one of our friends who I believe went to school for physics, whatever, wrote a book that involved magic that behaved a lot like physics. Like, people just write what they know.
And that's why I'm going to continue to plug away at my book, because I know good books.
No, you know nothing, so your book is about nothing. So, Axtara becomes friends with Mia, and I actually enjoyed Mia and her two sisters. I really liked them. I'm actually a little sad we didn't get to see more of the sisters. Like, Bantam hated this book, so this will make him, like, vomit in his mouth a bit, but the book should have been longer. There should have been more interactions with, Ativia? I don't know. Addie, for short. Should have been more interactions with Addie. Like, I really enjoyed the scene later on where she starts climbing Axtara. It's like, that was adorable as shit, alright?
Yeah, I'll admit it was.
Just clinging to the dragon's leg, and the dragon goes walking and just squealing as they get carried around. It's like, such a kid thing to do. And just,
well, she even describes that she's, like, because, she's technically a princess, and the king and queen or whatever, like, oh my god, it's uncivilized, no. And she's like, it's
she's
fine.
3.
It's like, she's 3. And, like, I'm very well versed in the young of, human children. I understand that she doesn't mean any disrespect.
It's like, bitch, I was a hatchling once.
Yeah, like, it's totally fine. And even the older daughter, the middle-aged one, she's like, yeah, no, and I know what she's going through because...
Yeah, she's just starting on that magical journey of being a horny teenager.
Horny teenager, yeah.
But just funny, the first words, can I ride you? And I'm like, damn, that's forward. But again, like, I appreciate it. Like, I don't know, if I was a dragon in this situation and someone's just like, can I ride you? I would like she did, like, balk at them, like, excuse me? But, like, you know what? I'm not so arrogant, proud, conceited that, like, you know what? I would use that as a bargaining chip. Somewhere down the line, they'd probably get to ride me and I'd take them flying. I'm really sad that she didn't take anybody flying by the end of this book. Right?
Yeah.
Like, especially because, like, two of the 3 sisters, the 3-year-old doesn't count because she's too young to, like, really formulate anything, but have expressed interest in flying. Like, it's so great, it's so lucky you know how to fly, I've always wondered what it would be like to fly. And it's, like, towards the end of the book, I understand that she spent the end of the book recovering from being shot, but, like, have there be a flying scene, that would have been magical, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and seeing as you said it, yeah, the whole thing of Ray wishes that his dragons were a little bit more durable. Axtara gets shot by the villain in the end of the by the end of the book, in a scene that everyone saw that I saw coming like a mile away. Uh, the major villain of the book is the previous tax collector, or the tax collector for the kingdom, who's been like a brother to the king. Apparently, he's bitter that they gave up on their adventuring ways. His dream was always to be a world-renowned adventurer and make his fortunes by killing monsters and moving on. And he resents the fact that the king became a king and set up a kingdom and then put him in charge of the taxes. And he's like, this sucks. I hate it. So he started skimming probably about 30% of the entire kingdom's wealth and telling the courier, Vern, who is incredibly lazy, hey, I need you to ship this to this kingdom, to this bank, so that, this is my personal savings. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone, blah, blah, blah. And when the climax to the book is Axtara realizing, hey, the finances for the kingdom don't add up. Playing around with the abacus, like, oh my god.
Yeah, the dun 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 moment is the numbers don't add up, which I enjoyed. I wouldn't say edge of the seat because I kind of saw it coming, but it's like yeah, I really dig this, and just Bantam just like sobbing in the corner.
Well, because it's a scene where it's like the character drops a teacup and it shatters on the ground in slow motion, and it's like, oh my god, the intrigue. Oh, and it's like, for me, I'm like, yeah, okay. The tax collector skimming. What else is new? But when they finally go confront him, I guess he's already realized like he's been caught, so he's
because just like I think like an hour prior, Axtara was
she was already
like,
interrogating
hey, why don't these numbers add up? Could you kind of shed some light on the situation? So he's like, fuck, I've been had. Time to get out of here.
Yeah, and so when at the end of the book, the king and the queen and the princess and Axtara show up to confront him. No guards, because they're like, oh, we don't want to just show up with guards. That's disrespectful. And he's already on his horse with like a pack and a gun, and it's apparently described as like a hand cannon. So basically, probably a blunderbuss. Axtara's like, oh, that could definitely kill me, or whatever. And they have the whole standoff where he tries to take Mia hostage, and Mia's like, no. Like, people forgot. I will say I loved that. The bad guy is like, he's got a gun, he's got 4 targets. He can only shoot once. And so he's like, oh yeah? Mia, get over here so I can take you hostage. And she's like, no. And he's like, oh, all right. And then just shoots Axtara.
Well, Axtara said no because she's like, she saw where it was going. She's like, oh, he wants to take her hostage. So he's like, there's no need to do that. If you promise not to take anybody with you, then I'll promise not to follow you, which was the reason why he wanted a hostage.
Yeah.
So it was like they were going to let the bad guy get away with it in exchange for just don't hurt anybody, which is a very realistic outcome, right?
Yeah.
It's like in most fantasy books, it's like, no, we have to stop him. He must get his comeuppance. He's going to spend his life in prison or get killed or whatever. Like, that's usually the resolution that most story writers want to go for because it's a lot more final and a lot more satisfying.
Yeah.
But the more realistic option is no, to make sure that nobody gets hurt, you let him get away with it.
Yeah.
It sucks, but you can kind of fix things moving forward. But I appreciated the more realistic outcome of it.
I kind of did too. And then this is the part that I accidentally spoiled for Ray. He basically, his plan was that he's been squirreling away all this money and shipping it out. Later on, they're talking to the courier, and the courier admits that the first couple shipments he did send to a bank far, far away, as requested. But he's old and he's lazy. His character trait is, in bold letters, lazy. He started storing it because he got a crate that wasn't quite full of gold. So
it's less effort
if I wait till it's full,
right?
And then send one shipment. And then it just kept piling up, and he thought it was a little suspicious, but at the same time, he's like, if he doesn't know it's here and I don't tell him I haven't shipped it's still safe.
Because he was given the lie of like, well, I'm sending it out of the country to keep it safe. And he's like, well, if it's the point is to keep it safe, then surely it's safe if it's here where nobody knows where it is, so I'll just keep it in my stable.
Yeah,
right?
So he keeps it in his stable.
It's the person who thinks that burying their money in their backyard is keeping their money safe.
Yeah, And so it's funny because, the bad guy gets away, quote unquote, and everyone's like, oh, but he got away with all this money. And then another character, it's like at the end of The Mummy, when they think that they lost all the gold and they're riding off into the sunset on camels, and then it's revealed that the camel saddlebags are full of gold, But yeah, he's got most of probably close to 70 to 80% of the stolen wealth, thousands upon thousands of bars of gold, just sitting there. So the bad guy could, is somewhere far away, like, ha ha ha, I did it, and then is like, oh, shit. Which I thought was neat. I liked the fact that, maybe because I see a little bit of myself in him, but a character whose main character trait is laziness saved the day by being lazy.
Yeah, that's the most unbelievable thing about this.
No, it isn't. It's absolutely realistic.
No, laziness can never save the day. Don't be lazy. It was a nice ending. I thought it was a little too fantastical. I don't know what word to use. Like,
how was that fantastical? A fantastical would be another dragon who's coming to visit Axtara, having picked him up on the road and driving him off. Like, hey.
See, I was expecting more of a like she was gonna be like, I promise not to follow you. You can leave. Just don't take a hostage with you, right? I was expecting that to pan out. She doesn't get shot, and it's like, I'm not gonna follow him. My brother will. Furiously writes a letter, right? That's what I was expecting. Like, she's like, oh, turns out my cousin's a bounty hunter or something. But no, but fantastical may be the wrong word, but like, I feel like the ending of, oh, it turns out that 80% of the stolen money is here, everything's fine, is a little too, I can't think of the word. I'm going to use fantastical again because it would have been better if instead of 80% of it was here, maybe only like 10 to 20%, like a good sizable chunk, so they can still make it through the winter that they're worrying about. But like the sheer amount that's left behind, so like all our problems are fixed. I can give a bunch of wealth back to the people, and we can like fix all this stuff. It's like that felt a little too over the top. Good news, right?
No, and here's why. Now I'm going to argue devil's advocate in the other direction. Okay, so let's say the bad guy gets away with 80. Let's do the 80-20 split, okay? The bad guy gets away with 80% of the gold. Yeah, it's kind of nice. They find a tiny little nest egg of 20%, and they're like, well, we can rebuild. It'll be rough for a few years, but we can do it. The fact that the bad guy got away with 80% is going to feel a lot worse to the reader. Like, the bad guy won. He got away with it. Sure, he didn't get all of it, but he got enough of a sizable chunk that you feel like, I really want this guy to die. I really want him to get his comeuppance.
You're right, but like, now, I mean, again, like I mentioned before, if you're going to go for a satisfying, the bad guy gets his comeuppance ending, you might as well have killed him during the standoff rather than let him get away in the first place.
No,
if you let him get away in the first place, go for the grimdark ending.
Nope. See, so here's my other point. Ray hasn't watched as many movies as I have, but I hope to God that someone out there listening to this has seen National Treasure.
No one has ever seen it.
Yeah.
The movie had 0 views. You're the only one in the universe.
Only one in the universe who saw Nicolas Cage's National Treasure.
It doesn't actually exist in this universe. We hop universes too much so that you just remembering things don't exist.
The point is that it is more satisfying for the reader to know or imagine, even if the book didn't show it, that the bad guy got to a faraway kingdom, relieved that he got away with it, only to go to the bank where he's supposedly expecting hundreds of thousands of gold, only to realize he has like 10,000 gold, which might be enough for him to live comfortably for like a year. But point is that to him, he lost. And in National Treasure, the bad guy shows up at a location after the good guy lied to him, thinking, I have the next piece of the puzzle, I'm going to get the true treasure all along, only to realize it was a trap, and the bad guy's like, holy fuck, I got played. That right there, the bad guy realizing I got played and I'm so far away, there's nothing I can do about it, is almost as good as being killed to most people. People who abhor violence, they love to see the villain get their comeuppance in a non-violent way, where the villain is now so far away that there's nothing they can do about it, and go, ah, fuck. Like, that, to me, was more gratifying than if they had just killed him. Because he'll never be able to show his face in the kingdom again. He'll be killed on sight.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's fine. It depends a little on, like, what future plans were. Like, I guess I'm thinking from the perspective of an author that would want to write a sequel to this, because there's more story to be told. So I'm like, it's okay if he gets away with the majority of the money if he, quote, wins in this book, because in the next book, we'll wrap him up in a nice little bow at some point. So it's like, it's okay for him to win now. But I don't know. I just like the bounty hunter cousin idea, I guess. I don't fucking know. I really thought he was going to get away with most of the money, and she was going to use some banking connections to be like, you know, she's got the power of banking and law on her side. So she's going to like write a letter to the banker guild that she's a part of, and they're going to figure out which accounts he embezzled the money to, and they were going to take him to court. It's all boring, but that's how I thought it was going to end. Rather than, nope, turns out it was here the whole time. But whatever, it does matter. People would write the ending differently. That's the magic of writing stories, is everyone's got a different idea, and that's why everyone should write. We should all put our ideas on paper.
Yeah.
Let's go. Just to speed through some of my notes here, because some of my notes are really, really small, and a lot of them are just like wanting to congratulate the author on doing a couple of things very well. And in case he ever listens to this, it's like, hey, here's some good things that I really liked, alright?
Okay.
Just a lot of it small little tidbits, like at one point, she has like a 2-paragraph remembering a story from her childhood, or like a tidbit. It's the part where she's like remembering when she was a hatchling. She snuck into a meeting between her father and an important diplomat. I'm going to the passage real fast to remember the exact story. Okay, she was a kid. She snuck around and she like knocked over a stack of porcelain during a very important meeting between her father and a dignitary, and like it was the most terrifying, harrowing moment in her life. Like, oh, how could I destroy all this china? Like, right, it's not a real big deal, but like the fact that it's a story that she remembers and then says like, this was like the most harrowing moment of my life until now, because now everybody's staring at me because she's in a town and no one likes her, whatever. It was just really interesting, like a really interesting way to sneak in some world building that I don't know. I just appreciated the way that was done. And then a bunch of other small things like very unique curses. Like, for example, in Wings of Fire, it's stuff like 3 moons or whatever, right? In Age of Fire, every now and then they do stuff like, oh, scales and tails, how could you say something like that, right? Very unique curses.
Yeah.
At one point she says sunspots, right? Like that's her curse, right? And later on someone's like sky and storms, like just unique curses like that.
On my egg, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I swear on my egg. And there are other times where they would like on the other claw is very simple, right? But a lot of these other things are a lot more flavorful. Like there's stuff like,
well, because you can't have a character say "God damn it," because then that immediately implies there's a god, and now you're like, well, what's the religion like here?
I mean, they more or less had the same god. They just called him the creator. It was more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
But just really small things like that I really appreciate, and I have no idea how I could come up with them myself. Like, who comes up with stuff like sunspots, right? Like, how does that pop up in your head?
Talk to grandmothers. Talk to grandmothers and then be around them when something goes wrong and listen to the stupid shit they say. My grandmother, whenever she would drop something or break something, she'd go, beans in a bag of donuts. And I never fucking understand. I never understood what beans in a bag of donuts meant for like a curse, but she would always say beans in a bag of donuts, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't have the grandma life experiences because my grandmas are in completely different countries than me, and they speak completely different languages.
I lived with mine for 9 years, so.
But then another thing that was really interesting was her desk, the way it functions. Like normally it's up and it's slanted towards her, which I guess is more like an easel, like an artist's writing desk kind of deal, right? Because of the position she as a dragon would be sitting in. And then when company comes over, she pulls a little lever and it flattens, so it evens out, it tilts, and then it lowers down to their level. And I'm like, that is such an interesting little tidbit of like how furniture should work for her versus for other people. It's dragon ergonomics, I would call it. And just that kind of stuff most people don't think about, and I loved that. Another thing I liked, so do you want to guess what one of my favorite parts of the book was, Bantam?
Let me actually think about this. Give me one hint. If the book is split into 3 parts, the first
it kind of
part
pops up during most of the parts. It's not a single scene, it's just an aspect of the book.
Is it the tea?
It's the tea.
Oh my god! First guess.
It's
first
the tea.
guess. It's the tea.
I love it when she first has Mio over for tea and she gestures to all the like little boxes of tea. Like here's like 7 flavors. they're labeled pick one you would enjoy, and then she gets the little tea set out. It's like, oh, I vibed with that so hard. It reminded me of the freaking Book of Hours game where you're exploring your house and you find random tea sets around, and they give stats because it's a video game, so they give different stat bonuses if you offer this guest this tea, he gets +4 to his rose stat or whatever, right? So there's a point for it in the game, but just the thought of like just so many tea sets and so many tea, it was so fancy. And it's like, damn, I want that.
Yeah, I'm
gonna go have some fancy tea now.
Every single time tea is mentioned, they with Mia specifically, they're talking about oranges and how oranges are not native to this area of the kingdom. So, like, she's never had oranges, and it's so wonderful. And then at the end of the book, they have hot chocolate, and I guess no one in the kingdom has had chocolate before, and because she's describing about how it's basically crushed up beans. And she's like, oh my God, this is the greatest drink I've ever had in my life. Oh my God. And Axtara gives her an entire crate of it because she had her brother send 2 crates. And it's like, I'll admit that, a character having hot chocolate for the very first time was kind of nice. Seeing someone react to, oh my God, what the fuck am I drinking? This is the best.
Yeah, and she did the same thing with the oranges because they wouldn't have oranges there. This is, again, a world where steam power is just barely coming on board. I don't know the term. On board's not the term. Online. Steam power is just barely coming online to where they just barely got the first trains or whatever. So globalization really hasn't kicked in yet. So there are a lot of things that people have not experienced because they're from completely different parts of the world. And again, that's just a very nice world building touch.
Yeah, like when, I think it's like in the midpoint of the book, while Axtara is actually trying to drum up business and get clients, she visits a fishing village, and she's mentioning to the villagers that they could export their fish. And they're like, why?
Why would we do that?
Why would we do that? It's just fish. And she's like,
well, yes, but they have different flavors. Don't you use different fish for different dishes? They're like, well, yeah, but it's just fish. Who would want to buy fish from across the world?
Because their reasoning was they have fish over there, don't they? And it's like, yeah, but not these fish.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, just fun little quicks, right?
Yeah, she's helping globalization happen.
Well, yeah, and that I look forward to seeing where it goes. I don't know, it's fun. At one point, there was a passage. I highlighted a bunch of really random little tidbits here. Like, I highlighted the term that says, we're not cold-blooded, and my note just says, all caps, thank you.
Yeah, I saw that part where she's like, yeah, dragons run hot, or whatever, like, and I'm like,
Mia asks if she can touch her wing, and she's like, go ahead, many have asked, but you've been the most polite about it so far. Touches the wing, surprised that it's warm. It's like, why? You thought it'd be cold like a snake? We're not cold-blooded, And
I'm like,
thank you.
I remember rolling my eyes going, Ray's going to love that, but I don't. I did. I think dragons should be cold-blooded.
No, dragons are not reptiles.
They are reptiles.
No. They're
cats.
They're way too large and active to be reptiles, but whatever. Anyway, Bantam, how do you think about the concept, it came up a couple of times, of noble people hiring a dragon to help them find a suitor?
I actually thought that was cute.
That was really cute. Again, more great world building and such a cute idea. Just like this, like noble woman's like, I don't know how to find a husband, so I'm gonna hire this dragon to big air quotes kidnap me. It's just like she said, it's a publicized vacation. We don't actually kidnap anymore, but hire a dragon to quote kidnap me, and then whoever can, beat this dragon in a cooking contest will become my husband or whatever, right?
Yeah,
I think it was the other way around. I think it was a guy wanted the cooking contest to find a wife that could cook for him. But whatever. Yeah. The point is just what an interesting concept, right?
The thing is that one little throwaway line implies that it does a lot of heavy lifting, because it implies that the dark days when dragons and humans were enemies are far enough away that people are like, hey, can I hire you to go kidnap someone? It implies that relations with dragons and humans are a little bit better than shaky.
Yeah, I understood it to be close to maybe 100 years since the Dark Days. I think it was within her parents' lifetime, if barely, but it's only a couple of human generations ago, which is why the central kingdoms, the very civilized world where things change really, really, really fast just by sheer population, dragons are accepted and they're welcome and they're just seen as people. But then the outskirts, the frontiers, the things where change happens much slower. So slow that people are actually actively resisting change, right? They would still think of dragons as monsters, because that's what they were used to from their stories and their legends, because they don't usually see them, right? Again, because globalization hasn't really happened yet, information doesn't circulate as fast, this would be stereotypes that they would be holding on to, because that's all they've known for, like, since their grandparents were kids, telling them stories in the freaking cottage living room or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Another fun part was just during one of Mia's random talks with Axtara. It followed the hiring a dragon to help you find a suitor.
The talk about sex?
Yeah.
Axtara. Oh God. Oh, fanning herself with her fucking
Dude,
hand.
I was gonna bring that up, like I don't know if Mr. Author person appreciates me talking about the sexual dimorphism of dragons, because he's like, no, this book is for children, how dare you. I don't know, but,
he mentioned it.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, if dragons are warm-blooded, they probably got external genitalia, right?
Like, I remember Mia said something like she was making comments about, like, how does it fit? Like, because Axtara confirms that dragons and humans have gotten together before.
Yeah, she tells a story about a dragon and a human that got made, and she's like, how does that even work? And she's like, I suppose it works like anything else. There are really no laws against it. She's like, no, not the marriage.
How does it physically work? And Axtara's like, ah!
Like, a pearl-clutching noblewoman, like, what? How, that's an inappropriate discussion. It's like, but how? Like, the sheer size, or like the sheer weight alone, it's like, and she's like, if you must know, it's magic. They can, like, the dragon can turn into a human, and the human can turn into a dragon because they both know magic. And I'm just like, boo, coward's way out, boo.
Yeah, it is boo, coward's way out.
Based on the picture, their sizes aren't so different that you couldn't make it fit.
That's true. Unless of course, like, dragons have a growth spurt and they get like 5 times bigger when they're older.
It really depends. Like, she's supposed to be like 26 years old, and if they live to be several hundred or more, if they never stop growing, like most other dragons, like the older you are, the bigger you get, then sure, there might be some issues there. But whatever, we'll find a way, right? But talking about age, here's a really weird quirk. I don't like how everything. No, hold on. Let me rephrase that sentence. I don't like how they try to, like, compare their ages as if they were, like, within the same age group. Now, Mia was 20 and Axtara was 26, so you know what? Close enough. That's fine. But the fact that the way it came up was Mia asked Axtara, like, how old are you? And then how old is that in human terms? It turns out 26 is basically the same as 20, so there's not that big of a difference yet. But then she's like, oh, that means we're the same age. And it's like, that doesn't really vibe with me, because I don't really care. Giving your age in human years only really serves to try to explain what percentage of your lifespan you're through already. But it would have nothing to do with, like, maturity or
the
age groups or whatever.
The author liked the concept of dog years and then just applied it to dragons.
No, but I mean, like let's pretend rather than 26 equals 20, let's pretend Axtara was, like, 75, right? If she was 75, but that was, quote, hold on, I'm just going to read the note I wrote on it, because I could do that in this book. I could just write my notes directly into the book. All right, here we go. All right, so my note for this, the thing I was like, by the standards of human, I would be about 20 summers of age. It's like, good. That means we're the same age category, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this concept. How old are you in human years, quotations, as if it means you would have a lot in common. If dragons live to be, 2,000, usually the elves in high fantasy have that age span, but if dragons could be 2,000, they could be 200 and be, quote, 19 in human years, because that's the same, general percentage. That does not mean the 200-year-old dragon would get along with a 19-year-old human. They would still be very different. The comparison does nothing but effectively say what percentage of your lifespan you are through. A 20 out of 2,000-year-old dragon would have no more in common with a 20 out of 60-year-old human than a 300 out of 2,000-year-old dragon would with the 20 out of 60 human, even if the percentages would be closer.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. If you want to be in the same age category as a 20-year-old human, you would be a 20-year-old dragon, not a 30-year-old who just happens to be the equivalent of 20. It's weird. It's like, I just don't think that it makes sense, and I'm tired of, like, fantasy books trying to do that. Like, oh, this elf is 200 years old, but because of the way elven culture works, that means he's basically 18. Therefore, all his human friends are 18. It's like, no, it absolutely would not work that way.
Yeah. Like I said, the author is like, oh, dragon years, that's a cool concept.
Yeah, it's
applies
a cool
to dragons. Or he was just desperate to find something that they would have in common, and had to justify it.
Oh no! Here I found it. Similar thing where it's a weird trope that shows up in a lot of fantasy things, especially with dragons or something else that flies. It can be griffins, it could be bird people, whatever. Another trope is always when the person asks, "What is it like to fly?" All right. Usually in the stories, the dragon responds with something along the lines of, it's marvelous, or like it's where I belong, or it's how I feel truly at home, or some other romanticized notion of flight. Which I get it. This is a book written by humans for humans, and humans have romanticized flying for a long time. That's why a lot of legends involved people being able to fly, and so on and so forth, right? But I just don't like it when in this example, a dragon responds, "It's the only place I ever feel truly at home." It's like, sure, I guess there could be some outliers. Somebody would think that, but in general, I feel like a dragon, if you ask them, what's it like to fly? They'd be like, I don't know, what's it like to walk? It's just how I get from point A to point B. It's like, if a snake, someone with no legs, was to ask a human, what does it feel like to run? You wouldn't go on like, oh, it's the only time I can feel like myself. Like, running is so amazing, it's so marvelous. It's such a shame that you can't do it, or whatever. It's like, no, it's like, I don't know, it's walking but faster.
Yeah.
It's a weird.
Well, because having the dragon describe it as a magical experience implies that, I mean, at that point, it is a human in a dragon suit. It's a human applying their thoughts and feelings to a dragon.
Yeah. Now, granted, I love the thought of flying. There's still that flying scene from the game Golden Treasure that gets me teary-eyed every single time I even think about it, right? Sorry, yeah, there we go. But a dragon would just see flying as mundane. It's whatever. It's what he does. Now, granted, a dragon who has lost the ability to fly, like at the end when Axtara is recovering, she can't fly for like a couple of weeks because of the chest muscles, right? If that had gone like really, really badly and it took her like months to get better, I could see her suddenly appreciating it much more when she's able to fly once more, because, you know, you tend to value things that you have lost. But it's just, I don't know. It's a weird character quirk that I don't really agree with, being like, oh, flying's magical. I do it every day. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. A lot of really good world-building tidbits in it. And I actually really, really, really enjoyed a lot of the interactions between Axtara and various people. Everything from just Mia's curious questions like, what do dragons find attractive in other dragons? Or whatever. To the fear-mongering, borderline racist stuff from the townspeople. I wish there was a bit more, I guess. I don't know. I appreciate that, like, one of the kids of the greenhouse farm, or whatever their name was, Moon or something. I appreciate that one of the kids was like, but so and so said that she would eat me. Like, it's a weird species clash thing that it's like, thank you, it's acknowledged. I don't know how to express myself here, but I enjoy friction between species and cultures. That makes for an enjoyable story to me. Yeah. Is when you explore it in a fantasy setting. Which is why I can enjoy dragon rider books, or books that have a dragon and a human, as opposed to, no, everything must be dragons 100%. Like, I'm okay with including humans.
So, in my book, humans are only going to be included to be fodder for the main character. Not all humans, just some of them.
You want your monsters to be more monstrous?
Well, like, thing is that I'm not planning on this book being marketable in any way, shape, or form. I've made peace with that. I want to break so many of the stupid fucking cliches that books have with mine. And I actually mentioned one to Ray the other day at work. One of the biggest cliches I always fucking hate is when the good guy or the bad guy, point is two opponents. Monologues. One person is like, you know, on the ground, holding their stomach, bleeding, and like slowly dying or whatever. And they're like, finish it. And the other person's like, no, you're gonna, you know, that would be too easy. I'm not a monster like you, or whatever. And it's like, nope, just my character, as soon as he drops the bad guy and the bad guy's like, wait, nope, axe is coming down. Fuck you. No monologues, no fucking talking your way out of this, no setting up traps. No fun. Yeah, no fun.
Phantom is extremely no fun. Because, again, in a setting where if I was the main character and I was fighting my villain, basically, I'd let him monologue. I'm a very curious individual. I would want to know why is he doing what he's doing? What was his master plan? Why did he think this would work out? Especially if I thought that I could beat him easily. Like, monologue away. I'm curious. Let me know what happens, what you expect to happen before I destroy you.
Nope. I'm Syndrome from The Incredibles. It's like, you got me monologuing. Nope, enough of that. Kill you.
Yeah. So I DM for Bantam. He plays D&D with me, and I have to keep him in place when my villains monologue. He'll try to edge his token closest slowly, and no, you go back there.
God damn you and your pause button. As soon as we reveal the boss and we're all standing there, he'll pause the game so that none of us can move, and then he'll do the monologue. And it's like, you know what? In a realistic
I cast the
scenario,
spell monologue. You can't move until I finish talking.
In a realistic scenario, I kick in the door to the villain's lair, and the villain's sitting on his chair, sitting like a Jarl from Skyrim. And he's like,
so you finally got past
you
my
finally
guards.
got me here. And it's like, no, you know what? If I'm capable of sneaking in there while he's fucking monologuing so I can just slit his throat, I'm doing that. I don't care what you have to say. I'm here to kill you, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't give a fuck about your plans.
Your story's going to be so unsatisfying.
I don't care. Like I said, I have already made peace with the fact that, like one of the, Ray knows how much I hate, tropes and cliches. And the movie Kingsman, when the bad guy, when the good guy walks out of the church and the bad guy holds a gun up to him and he's like, I suppose this is the time where, you capture me and tell me about your whole plan. And he's like, no, this ain't that kind of a movie. And he shoots him in the fucking head. Yes! That's how you do it. Don't give the good or bad guy a chance.
But here's the thing. That worked as a scene in that movie because later on you found out what his plan was. Right? If that scene was literally the end of the movie because you've seen from that guy's point of view or something, it would have been terrible, it would have been unsatisfying. And people would have been like, well, what the fuck?
If I write this book and I do all my anti-cliches and I publish it and it sells millions and millions of copies, will you apologize to me?
If it sells millions, then sure, I'd still say that I feel like monologues serve a purpose, but whatevs.
I just feel like there's a lot of people out there like me who, it's like, here comes the part where the villain tells him his whole plan while he sets up traps and then escapes while the good guy's like, if only I had taken my shot. And it's like, nope.
The thing is to also keep in mind, people who read books tend to enjoy the monologue. People that don't like the monologue tend to play games where they can just skip all the cutscenes.
Then it should be written that the bad guy is in a place where you can't reach them. Behind a bulletproof glass, up on a ledge where the good guy can't possibly get to him, or whatever. Fine, I can accept that, because if one of the characters is in a position where he feels the other person cannot possibly hurt him, then sure, he'll gloat and monologue.
This is why Dracula has to talk to you through his castle while you're going through it.
Yes.
Not face to face.
I actually do like that. I like that in games and movies and TV shows where it's a booming voice that echoes through the entire dungeon / castle / fort, while you're attempting to get to him. Like from Skyrim, the Cicero thing from the Dark Brotherhood questline. The entire dungeon you're going through, and Cicero is basically begging you to hear him out and blah blah blah. And then by the time you reach him, you can make that decision. I just murder him or I spare him. That's good storytelling. See, is it Zana or Zana?
I think it's Zana.
Zana. So Zana says monologuing while the hero's chained up and about to die. No, because that gives the hero a chance to escape. The bad guy is like, I have you. The amount of times a bad guy has had a good guy at gunpoint and not pulled the trigger is disgusting to me. I understand that would end the movie, but it still aggravates the piss out of me. And it's like, you can be arrogant and also not take chances. James Bond stuff is so silly. When are bad guys going to learn?
Never. It's James Bond.
I'm going to leave you in an easily escapable situation and assume it all went to plan. What?
There are evidently plans for a sequel to Axtara. Do you want to read it? No?
No. I really don't. I don't give a fuck about banking and finance.
I'd probably read it. We just have the issue of I have much less reading time compared to listening time, and if it's an audiobook, it's going to have to go way down on my list. There are a couple of other books that are lined up priority, But I would be interested in it. So it's good enough that I would want to actually see what happens in the sequel. But yeah, I figure we're pretty much done talking about the book, since we're kind of tangenting off into monologue territory. So thanks everyone for coming and listening to us talk about Axtara Banking and Finance. There will be the final next week for it. It sounds like a textbook name.
Sounds like a book that's handed out in school.
Yeah, a textbook.
Yeah.
Banking and Finance. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed. If you want to get in contact with us, to like give us your opinions or suggest something else for us to take part of, to read, take part of. I don't fucking know. If you want to talk to us, Bantam, tell us how they can talk to us.
All right, you can talk to us. Our email is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/worldofdragonspodcast, and our Discord will be linked in the show notes.
Yeah. Since Dilettant's not here to do it, if you join the Patreon, you're just basically saying how much you appreciate us and you're helping us like afford multiple copies of all these things. Also, if you pledge at the $5 tier, you gain a special role which lets you tune in live to our studio audience, the people you hear us talking to in the background.
Yeah, who, sometimes we'll read what they say, especially if it adds to the discussion. Also, we just like to laugh and interact with them, send memes.
I'm probably gonna make a new Discord room, like a chat room, for questions pre-recording. It'll be like, hey guys, we're reading this book next, and we're gonna record in 2 weeks. So if you have any questions about it, like you've already read and you want to know what we think about A, B, or C, like let us know there. Just
spoiler
they'll spoil it, of course, because we haven't read it yet. But it'll be just get some more interaction between us and our listeners. That won't be paywalled at all, but just that'll be on the Discord. So come to the Discord. The link, because Discord links are nightmares, the link will be in the show notes.
It is KFJH74AQN2.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay. If you can remember that and just type it in so you listen to it, then that's great.
All right. So next time on World of Dragons podcast.
Next episode.
We are going to be reading Scales of Fate, The Chosen Prince.
Yep. By Shaden Barnes.
Shaden Barnes. Who knows? I'll ask him.
Yeah.
But I mean no disrespect to anyone in our studio audience or anyone else who we have read books from.
This was written by one of our listeners who asked us to review it, which some people have done previously. They've asked us to review their stuff, but this person has provided us with free copies, so they get to put to the front of the priority list.
Yep. So the synopsis: a young dragon is forced to choose between the call of his heart and the duty to his crown. Once in a generation, the dragon kingdoms are called upon to offer their finest prince to remain celibate. You know what? Scrap that. I fucked it up so many times. Synopsis: a young dragon prince is forced to choose between the call of his heart and the duty to his crown. Once in a generation, the dragon kingdoms are called upon to offer their finest prince to remain celibate and compete for the betrothal of the future empress. Plucked from obscurity, dragon princes Uzin and Razin vie to become the chosen prince of their kingdom. Amid the competition, Razin's heart is captured by an alluring and mysterious drake, while facing the trials of maturity in a palace awash with tantalizing princesses. Will he navigate his burgeoning desires, a deadly rival, and a clandestine love, or will temptation be his downfall? And for those who are excited by the prospect, this is an erotic novel. This novel contains
judge of that.
This novel contains many explicit and erotic scenes involving dragons and drakes, not humans or shifters. Love you. Additionally, there are a few scenes with intense violence, mature audiences only.
As the one of us with the most erotic novel experience, I'll be the judge of that.
I do actually sometimes go back and listen to old episodes, and I think the episode I've listened to the most is the erotica one that we did, where I did not know it was an erotica until the thing came out, and I remember going, "What the fuck?"
But yeah, it's like there's two different families of erotic books. There's one which literally the genre is romance erotica, and then the other family is just a normal fantasy book that just happens to have sex in it. They both have very different flavors. I don't know which one this is. I will let you know after I read it. But yeah, if you have written a book that you want us to cover, we would be happy to do so. Understand that we don't pull our punches. If there's something wrong with your book, we will call you out on it. This could be anything from we thought this little story beat was kind of silly to it was difficult to understand. Please do know the editing pass, right? We've handled both on the show before. If you can give us a review copy, it would help out immensely, and as a thank you, we'll put you on top of our priority list. It's not expected. It's just, we have a queue. We'll get to stuff when we get to it, and stuff gets expensive after a while, so
Yeah.
Review copies are greatly appreciated. But yeah, so that'll be next time. And we'll see you all there, and thank you for coming with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Goodbye.